Best-selling author NR Brodie is known for her fast-paced, emotional and psyche-spinning storytelling tricks, and that's evident in her first novel, Knucklebone. In her recently published novel, 3 Bodies, Brodie leaves no stone unturned as she leads us to 3 separate mystery murder scenes that seem to be interconnected. And at the center of this crime thriller is Captain Reshma Patel and her partner, former police officer Ian Jack, who investigates whether there is a connection between the deaths of these women. Well, without giving much of the book away, let me rope in NR Brodie into this conversation to chat more about the book. NR, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning.
Well, first of all, right from the get-go, the book starts off with the shocking discovery of a body in the Hartbeespoort Dam, of which this sets the precedence on how the rest of the book unfolds.
For me, I suppose the best detective stories start with that unsettled moment where you think everything is normal. It's sort of, I suppose, a bit like our life now, where it feels like an ordinary day and something goes wrong. And that sets a series of events in motion that then have to be sort of unraveled or unpicked in order to return to a state of being okay again. So this starts off with a gardener cleaning sort of invasive waterweed out of the Hartbeespoort Dam. And while he's cleaning, he discovers a body. And that brings into play Ian and Reshma, the 2 lead investigators in my books. And they have to figure out why this woman was killed, who she is, and if her death is connected to the murders of 2 other women that are found in the center of Johannesburg and another one in the south of Gauteng in Knucklebone.
Well, the Hartbeespoort Dam, the Vaal River, the Yeska River are just, the main settings in the book. So what was so appealing about these landmarks that made you decide to center the book around them?
So my first novel, Knucklebone, was really themed around the places and spaces of Johannesburg. As a journalist and as an author, I've also written several history books, and I've written quite a lot about Johannesburg. So when I wrote Knucklebone, Johannesburg was really one of the main characters. But in this book, water becomes a thread that links the murders, and the spaces that I explore are expanded. So it isn't just Johannesburg anymore. It's really the whole of Gauteng, even crossing into Northwest at the top. And I think it's more about almost the scarcity and the rareness of water in the city, but also the pollution of water comes through as well. And I was sort of interested in the darkness of these pretty spaces. So even the Vaal River, which maybe many people associate with water sports or a braai on the side of the river, this is now a place of death. The Yeska River, I think most people already associate with a high level of pollution, but it crosses through some very populated areas of Johannesburg, and it can be either a place of great beauty or of great threat if there's floods. And then, of course, we reach at the top, the Hartbeespoort, where it's this man-made dam that is half the time completely covered by an invasive water hyacinth that threatens the entire water system. So the water, I suppose, is a metaphor for the contested spaces around water that we have in our city. But it also has another link, which I don't want to give away because that would spoil some of the plot.
And at the center of this book, NR, is a very strong female character, Captain Reshma Patel. Talk to us about how this character develops and the pivotal role that she plays in this book.
That's a great question. When I first started writing these books, Reshma was not as central a character, or she was a central character, but she didn't have really a central voice. And when people started reading the first drafts of my first novel, Knucklebone, everybody really loved Reshma, and people related to her very strongly. And I think what I also want to point out is that Reshma, as a police officer, she's an important character for us to have at this point in time, where it's so easy to deride police officers, to criticize them, to mock them, where I do quite a lot of work researching crime and violence in South Africa in my normal life. And, when we look at the work that many police officers do, they really are dedicated and devoted to their jobs. They are doing incredibly hard work for not very much money. And Reshma Patel, Captain Patel, is one of these people who really feels strongly motivated by a need for justice and rightness, and she's trying to figure out, well, what do those things mean in the bureaucracy of the police force, as a female, where she's confronted by mostly men in senior positions. But she really is compelled by a strong sense of the need to do the right thing. And I really believe that most of our police officers do that as a public service.
You know, Nahama, just listening to you, I am hooked already. And I'm quite curious to know, what is it that made you fall in love with, writing stories about crime, mystery, and telling stories that are high-paced and as well as resonate with the reader?
I've read crime stories and detective stories since I was a kid, from The Secret Seven and Alfred Hitchcock and the Three Investigators to reading Agatha Christie as I grew up. For me, I love writing these kinds of stories because, first of all, I love the puzzle of resolving a crime in your head. But people who've read Knucklebone, and if you read these books, you'll see there is a little bit of an extra element in terms of superstition, traditional beliefs. You could even say a little bit of the supernatural in these detective stories. And for me, when I write the stories that I'm writing now, it's about trying to resolve the problems that we see as a society through the agency of the detectives that I have. And you'll see, particularly in fact, in both books, there are a number of strong women. So it really is about how could we fight these horrible injustices, the petty injustices, the big ones and the small ones that we see every day. And I almost have this sort of fantasy of justice that emerges through these books. And so it's quite fun as an author to be able to make things turn out right at the end, because unfortunately in real life it doesn't feel like it always turns out that way.
Nahama, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that was NR Brodie, and she joined us via Skype. She's, a veteran journalist and author of 6 books, and we're just in conversation about her newly released title, 3 Bodies, Reshma Patel and Ian Jack Thriller.